So hey, Tony V here from the 1010 movement, and we are right in the middle of a three-part series. You have arrived at video number 2 on how to improve your productivity and how improving your productivity absolutely can increase your success rate. So what we're going to do first is we are going to perhaps score on my favourite question, if you haven't watched me before, is on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 equals this and 0 equals this, what number would you give yourself? So I want you to just think about your thinking right now and go, yeah, okay, so as I think about the way I think, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 would be, do you know what, I think negative thoughts, thoughts with a negative tag, you know, a lot of the time, and 0 would be, do you know what? I don't do that at all. You know, it's like, so look, we're looking for how much negative thought is in our awareness, yeah? So here's what I did that worked for me. It's a 10-day test. Could you do this consistently for 10 days? Now, all you need, the kit you need is very limited. You just need a pen that works and you need a pad, yeah? And what I did is I kept a track of my thinking, my thoughts. So I turned up what I call my awareness button. So because your thinking is primarily unconscious, in other words, you're not thinking about what you're thinking, then we're sort of unaware of what we're thinking. So what we're going to do is switch our awareness switch on and listen more to what we're thinking, turn the dial right up, and then make notes about what we catch ourselves thinking. And I want you to just write down your thoughts, yeah? Now, when I did this, I'm going to tell you what sort of happened. What happened for me was quite scary. So, you know, I'm putting a bit of a warning out there. It's a bit scary when you did this, you know. Actually, when I first thought about doing this, I thought I'm going to do it for a month. But actually, I only did it for 10 days and I gave up because I didn't need to do it for 30 days. Often I'll do things for 10 days and then go to 30 days. But in this case, it was actually the other way around. You don't need to do this for more than 10 days. Because what you're going to do is you're going to identify your common thinking patterns. So just wanted you to write them down. Every time you have a thought that you sort of like consciously attach to, I want you to write that thought down, yeah? And just keep making a list throughout the day. Keep your pad there, go, yeah, just had that thought, boom, what was it, yeah. Now, I had a bit of a scoring system really, so in a day, I started to recognise that actually my thinking patterns were very repetitive. They were seriously repetitive. In other words, I thought the same thought over and over and over again. One of my most common thoughts was I was thinking about money a lot. And when I looked at what I was actually thinking, I put a plus if it was positive or a minus if it was a negative, yeah? And actually, what I discovered was I had way more negative. I mean, not just a little bit, it was way more. It was like, I'm a fan of the 80-20 rule. Often it's said that things break into 80-20. So, you know, are you doing 80% this and 20% that? That's very common. In fact, in many areas of life, it's quite interesting. It's called the 80-20 rule. But actually, when I did this, my negative thoughts at the time, this is 20 years ago, were way more than 80%. In fact, that's why I go, it was a bit scary, because I'm thinking, right, I'm becoming aware that actually most of the time when I'm awake, I'm thinking negative things. It's very weird, yeah? But anyway, it was life-changing because it's like once you discover where you are, and that's why I like to do the scale of 0 to 10. I mean, you've got a big guess now. You've gone, right, okay, I'm having a bit of a guess at where I am. But actually, for 10 days, you're going to end up with 10 bits of paper and 10 lists with pluses and minuses next to it. So you can sort of work it out, yeah? Now, it's not easy to write down every thought. You actually, apparently, somebody counted, I don't know who, you have, you know, tens of thousands of thoughts a day. But what we're looking for is like the big ones, the ones that you become aware of, yeah? And then consciously write them down. And it gives you like a map of you and how your thinking is working. And, you know, you can work out your score. You've got your guess now, yeah, on a scale of 0 to 10, I think I'm here. But actually, you can do a bit of a calculation by adding up the pluses and the minuses and go, yeah, I've recorded like 100 and whatever thoughts, you know, and actually, you know, 80 of them were like negative. So I am like 8 out of 10 negative, not positive, yeah. So, of course, think about your productivity now. If unconsciously you are thinking negative thoughts, then what happens is that it means that you will have adrenaline in your system, because when we have negative thoughts, what actually happens is your chemistry marries up with those thoughts. So thinking sort of turns it into emotions, yeah? And we're driven by these emotions. Our behaviours are driven by these emotions. So think of the pattern: thought, emotions, behaviour. So, like, if you start to check in with your emotionality and then check in with your behaviour, you'll find that each one of these thoughts leads you to a certain behaviour via your emotions. Now, any thought that's got a negative tag tends to give you, it's going to give you a negative emotion. It's not going to give you a positive one, is it? So you now got negative emotionality in your body, which drives you to run a behavioural patterns that don't really work so well for you. So if we're going to be more successful, more productive in our working life and our daily life generally, then this is something we really need to dive deep into and have a good look and a bit of a sort out. So I discovered, you know, I was well down, my energy's way, way, way down here, when actually I've got the ability to have my energy way up here, yeah? So what I need to do is learn to switch my negative thoughts off and turn more, you know, I don't like to call it positive thinking. A lot of people call it positive thinking, but I always go, I'm having thoughts with a positive tag. That's it, really. I'm not necessarily thinking positively all the time, you know, but I'm more in control of my thoughts. That would be a way that I would be looking at it. So what do you do? What can you do to switch this around? Well, first thing is to identify where you are. So we've done that. It's going to take us 10 days. We've had a guess now. Now we do the 10-day test. Then we evaluate what's happened. And then we go, right, what am I going to do now to improve my score? Okay, so there are loads of things you can do to improve your thinking patterns, yeah? And it's like one of my favourite Einstein sayings, although this is the Tony V version, is that to elevate yourself, or to elevate yourself to a new level, so whether that was success or productivity in this case, if you want to be more productive, then the thinking that got us to be productive at this level is very different that's going to get us to this level. So we've got to change the way we think to get ourselves to a next level. So how are we going to do that? What specifically can we do? Well, one of my favourite tools, now look, you can dive into why we are thinking so many negative thoughts. That's actually very interesting. For the most part, it's come from your childhood. So working on that is a possibility. I'm a fan of coaching, of course. There's loads of things you can do, you know, get other people to help you. But what's the self-help thing? You know, for me, I've tested many things. And one of my favourite things that I have utilised over time in various different ways, I would go, look, what's my number one thing? It's a form of affirmations. You know, in the personal development world, Tony Robbins calls this an incantation, you know. And I have used these extensively and tested. So what this is it's something that when you sort of you'll recognise you can only have one thought at a time. So if you are deliberately saying something, you're behaving in a certain way, which is coming from an emotion, and that way you can't have another thought while you're doing that, yeah? So it's like what we're doing is we're overwriting the old pattern. So you start to say things, you know, deliberately say them. So in other words, when I say deliberately, I mean consciously choose to say something repetitively that will then overwrite an old pattern. Now, this all takes time. It's not easy to overwrite an unconscious pattern with a conscious one. It really isn't easy. But actually, with repetition, you can do it. And I definitely learned how to do this. So for example, you know, I was working on my fitness and health at the time. So I started at the beginning, I couldn't run at all. You know, I could run like 10 yards, I was out of breath. But I started to practice running, and it didn't take me long. About a month, I could run 3 miles, no problem at all. Yeah, and whilst I was running, I'd say things repetitively. So I built a little saying, you know, like an affirmation, which everything in there is positive. Everything was positive. And I kept saying it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And incredibly, you know, you can you can sort of visualize yourself in your future. So you visualize yourself being more successful, more productive, and then you talk about the you here, the finished you, when you're more productive, more successful. And then you talk about that today in your affirmations as though you're already that person. Yeah, that's sort of a way to do it. It's one of the ways I learned to do it. It's one of many things you can do, but that's what I'd encourage you to do. You know, write a bit of a few lines. You know, I am productive. I am successful beyond belief. I do production I produce pieces of work that blow people away. They're so incredible. That sort of thing, yeah? So you make a sort of, it's like a paragraph I often write, yeah? Where it's repetitive. Use the words I am as well, because it's like puts you in the moment. You are that person now. And I promise you, if you do this enough, your energy will go up, and it's almost impossible for your productivity not to go up too. So build something. I mean, feel free to drop what you write what you want to write. Drop it in the boxes below, and I'll have a look at it for you. You know, I help people tighten these up and say it really well. But look, we're individuals, so we need our own one. We need our own one, and it needs to like inspire and empower us. And then basically, I'm not saying you've got to go running every day, but when you're driving to work, or if you're on your bike going to work, or you're walking to work, or whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, keep saying this, keep saying it, keep saying it, keep saying it. Be that person, see that person, visualize yourself as that more productive, more successful person. So step 1, give yourself a score today. Step 2, write your thoughts out for the next 10 days, come up with an actual score, then write yourself a paragraph that's everything in it that's positive, and then repeat it over and over and over again with using all of your energy, all of your power to say that. So that's it from me, Tony V at the 1010 Movement, helping you hopefully move towards living a more 10 out of 10 life experience. And I'm going to see you in video 3, where we are going to cover your working environment. So that's it from me on video 2. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please press the subscribe button. And we make 2 videos a week, so press the old notification bell to remind you, and pop up a notification saying another one's done.